Yeah, brown skin, short legs, and fat ass. Son, that's my type, I cannot pass. Walked up, said we from Colorado, are we hanging out?
What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? This is Jordan Kurtz with the comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast. I'm here today with a special guest. We got my man Kyle Broadwater out of the Genesis Fighting Academy. How you doing, my man?
What's up, guys? I'm doing great today.
So, Kyle, you've got a fight coming up toward the end of the month. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I got a fight next Saturday, actually, and just had an opponent change again. So last night, got a new contract in. It's been a whirlwind this last week since the original contract was signed. But it's a great promotion, CFFC out in Philadelphia. And I'm so excited about this one. My opponent is an undefeated amateur. He'll be making his pro debut. And he's a killer. He's aggressive. He should make for a fun fight. I hate boring fights. And this guy looks like a lot of fun. So I was excited to accept it and get it rolling.
That's awesome, man. Are you able to publicly announce who the opponent is at this point, or is that still under wraps until the promotion puts it out?
No, his contract signed. His name's Matthew Hicks. Okay. And other than that, maybe your listeners know something more about him out there on the East Coast. I'm not really familiar with the scene out there and how big he is. But like I said, I know he's an undefeated fighter and he likes to fight. He's got a great IQ. And, man, I'm really looking forward to this one. It's been so long since I've been in the cage. I can't wait.
Yeah, man, I'm sure, with the pandemic layoff and everything along those lines, it's something that, unfortunately, you're not the only one who's been in that predicament. There's been a lot of fighters who have had to have much longer layoff than they would have ever wanted to, given the circumstance.
Yeah, and my circumstances were a little bit more dramatic than that. I just moved up to Colorado right before the pandemic hit. So on top of COVID hitting and everything being shut down, my name, nobody knew me. So it was especially hard to get a fight with no one knowing me, finding a new team, finding a new coach. It's been incredibly difficult. And that's why I'm so pumped about this one, even more so than most.
Oh yeah, I can totally imagine. So just to hit everybody off with the business end of things, where can they follow you?
They can follow me. You can find me on Facebook at Kyle Broadwater or Instagram. That's my main go-to as far as communicating with fans, communicating with promoters. That's Kyle_Kingslayer_Broadwater. And that's on Instagram. That's my handle there. And that's my preferred method of communication with everybody.
Nice. I kind of prefer it myself too. It's what I use the most out of anything. Like sometimes I still get messages like on Facebook Messenger here or there, but I'll be honest with you, man. I had to do a factory reset on my phone a couple of months back, and I didn't reinstall any of the Facebook apps like Facebook or Facebook Messenger or any of that. I don't miss it, to be honest. I know that on the business end, I've missed a couple of messages, but I feel like for the most part, if it was really that important, if I didn't answer there, someone has found me through another channel of communication,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm seriously considering shutting down my Facebook altogether. It's crazy out there right now.
Yeah, I feel like, when I was young and coming up out of high school and through college and all of that, like Facebook was the big boom. Like, there wasn't there was sure MySpace was like the introductory stage of social media. Then Facebook is what really took off. And then toward the end of college, that's when stuff like Twitter and Instagram started to pop off. Yeah. But Facebook, I feel like I don't know, for me, it's become almost like such a negative, like suck hole of time sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All you see is everybody bickering about their politics or whatever other message there is. So I just stay away from it. I don't put myself in that position.
You almost can't blame them. Everybody's at home right now. Used to being at home for this past year, and they just want to be heard. You almost can't blame all the bickering and the arguing and the political statements and people giving their opinions. I honestly, you have to shut it out, but you can't blame them for expressing themselves right now with being unable for the most part this last year to talk with other people, communicate face to face. So it is what it is, man.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a great positive spin and a positive outlook to look at that. I like what you did there, my man.
Appreciate it.
So how did this opportunity for CFFC come about? Because, you're from Texas, you mentioned that, and then you fought for Fury before, which is a Texas-based promotion, albeit the last one was here in Colorado. I called that fight, but that one, how did that come about with CFFC?
Oh, that was all my manager, Steve Gross and Mollywop Sports, and my coach and I had been reaching out to a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who have a lot of contacts, but it wasn't until I met Steve with Mollywop that things started really opening up for me. So all credit for this fight goes to him. He's been putting a lot of work in behind the scenes. It must be such a pain right now to have to go through the number of opponents that we've went through just this last week alone to get something secured and figured out. So mad props to that guy for putting in the work behind the scenes. Big things ahead for the two of us and our relationship.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. It is really, it's a big deal in this game to have those connections or to have representation who is able to put your name in front of other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now it's up to me to show out this next week and get my name out there.
Now, in terms of what can we come to expect from you once you enter the cage?
That's a good question, because all of my fights have been very limited as far as training goes. I didn't start training until I was very late in the game. I was 29 years old. And when I first started, finding an MMA team down in Austin, Texas was extremely difficult. Found a lot of good jiu-jitsu schools, some good kickboxing schools. But as far as the MMA school goes down in Austin, I couldn't find one that fit my style and my personality. So all my amateur fights and my first two professional fights, I had spent without a lot of basic fundamental training. And I would say YouTube was my predominantly head coach. And so this is my first fight where I've been training with an amazing coach and a very gifted, talented team. And I'm excited to see what I have. I finally feel like a complete fighter. Every facet of my game needs improvement, but I finally feel that I have a facet in every single part of my game to display, to be offensive and defensive. And so I'm excited to show out this time. I would originally say I'm a freestyle striker, and I love my movement. I love my footwork. I have a lot of good footwork, good head movement. I love chaos. I love the scrambles. The more technical things are, the more bored I am. I don't like boring fights. That's why I'm so excited about this one coming up. I didn't even start wrestling until after my last fight. You said you called that in October 2019. Like, I had like 2 wrestling classes under my belt at the time. So props to my opponent for finding that weakness right off the bat. And but things are different now. I'm much more well-rounded. I'm excited about this fight. Excited to see what comes out. This is an art form, and whatever's inside, I'm excited to see it displayed in the cage.
Definitely, man. Now, if you were to compare yourself stylistically to anybody out there that fans may just get a picture of, is there somebody that you can name?
Oh man, that's a tricky one, because nobody sees Michael Bisping as somebody who's creative. He's very technical, but my fundamental, my base, my mindset mimics a Michael Bisping style, to where, like, I'm expecting my technique to beat yours, but if I need to mix it up and get creative, I will. And so it's really hard to pinpoint any fighter that I can say I'm closely matched with. That's kind of impossible. I'm my own thing right now.
That's fair. But I mean, hey, Left Hook Larry was a world champion too, so that's not a bad one that you could go and make a comparison to.
Amazing guy, amazing. I love his book. I just finished his book, Quitters Never Win, and just beautiful book.
Yeah, I started on it, but I'll be honest, I didn't get through the whole thing yet. I try to read a lot. Like, I actually try to read a lot. That's just one that I haven't finished and gotten all the way through. I wish that I wish that had I known that you were such a Bisping fan, I would have just gutted through it, just finished it. But
may I recommend the audio version? It's so much easier to get through when you're just traveling place to place and be able to listen to it rather than sit down, because that is a hard book to get through.
Yeah, I love Audible, man. Audible's my jam, especially like I can't tell you. It's probably been about 8 times now that I've listened through the David Goggins "Can't Hurt Me" book.
I got that one as well, man. I can't say 8. I'm about at 3, but it's motivating every time.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes like it'll just be, and maybe it's not 8 times cover to cover. It's definitely been a solid 5, 6 cover to cover, just starting and going all the way through. But maybe sometimes I'll go back and I'll just listen to a couple chapters or a couple of stories here and there.
Yeah,
Or
that's the making of
show someone.
Absolutely, that's the making of a good book and a good author and somebody who's been through a lot. Because after reading a book a few times, you can, instead of listening to it all the way through, you can go back and pinpoint a chapter or something that you want to re-listen to because it applies to something that you're going through in your life. You don't need to listen to the whole book again. It's I love those authors. I have a few of those authors that I just love, and I do that all the time with those books. Yeah.
What's the best read that you've had in the recent time, I guess?
Well, I mean, I once again just finished it. I listened to it. That's probably been 30 times cover to cover. But The War of Art, not The Art of War, but The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It's a book about resistance in your life and all the different forms it manifests itself, and how to look out for it, how to overcome it, and just another amazing story of a writer. It was a book about himself, but all his experiences as a writer and resistance and how long it took. That's why I'm attracted to the Bisping story as well, because of how long it took for him to become a champion. Charles Oliveira is a recent discovery of mine. I've always loved his style, and it just mimics Bisping's story in a sense, where it took so long, so much discipline, so much perseverance to get to where he is. And a guy like me who didn't start training till he's 29 in MMA, and it wasn't until about a year and a half ago that I even started training all the facets of it. So I need that motivation, and that's very inspiring for somebody like myself who's not starting MMA when he's 10 years old.
Definitely. Did you see the video of him going back to the favela?
I have not seen that. Was that on one of the UFC video blogs?
Yeah, the UFC, they posted it on their Instagram yesterday, but then like Mick Maynard reshared it. I shared a clip of it on my Instagram, but it's incredible, seeing him go back to, to his people. It was very reminiscent of how the Francis one was a couple weeks ago.
Right.
But it's phenomenal. It's amazing to see. And what I think is even more, incredible along those lines, not to trivialize Francis by any means, but Charles Oliveira still lives in the favelas. Like, he still lives in that same neighborhood that he came up through, pretty much. He's known to be a man of the people. They say he doesn't really spend much on himself, but come holiday, come Christmas time, the whole neighborhood has gifts. Like that sort of stuff. So it's just like, man, like seeing him then come back and seeing the love and the reception from his people was amazing.
Yeah. Just like, what was his name? Justin Wren. Similar experience there.
Yeah. The big pygmy. I love the big pygmy, man.
The big pygmy. I almost said the little pygmy, and I didn't want to say it because it's been so long since I read his book. The big pygmy. There you go. Yeah.
He's actually I've met Justin actually at a few Bellator shows, and bro, you want to just talk about like a genuinely cool human being, like a very nice guy as a whole. Justin Wren is awesome. Yeah.
One of my training partners, Josh Cuddly Bear. I don't know if you know of. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard.
Copeland. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Copeland. He's friends with Justin Wren, and which only makes sense because Josh is such a good guy. So if Justin is anything like him, I would love to meet him one day, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, hey, some of those guys, they go way back to before Genesis was Genesis, when it was Grudge, way back when, with all of that.
Yeah, the history is crazy there. I'm there and I hear a new story every day. I'm just like, no, I wasn't around for that. But I love hearing the stories.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, and I mean, there's some big time vets that have gone that way in the recent years too, that didn't necessarily start over there, but then within the same similar time frame that you've been over there, Genesis, have came through. Like I love Chris Camozzi.
Yeah,
That's one of my,
absolutely.
I owe a lot to Chris in the game in general. Chris, so Chris was obviously, he was with us for a long time at Factory X, but he had his shop. He had Performance MMA, which was a pro shop that was right next to it.
Right.
My studio and my office is also in the gym. So there was a lot of days where it was just me and Chris there at the gym, for the most part during the daytime when no one else was, to where we just got to, converse and, shoot the shit for hours at times. And I'm a big fan of Chris as a fighter first before I even got to meet him on a personal level, just because, that's a dude who's first team all violence. Anybody, if you just go turn on like the Joe Riggs fight or something like that and see, you'll see what type of guy Chris Camozzi is as far as when he fights. But, just a good person, Brian as well.
Yeah, Brian, and it was fun to see Brian. He came through last Saturday, and him and Chris sparred a little bit, and it was fun to watch. I got some good pictures of that. That was fun.
And they don't hold back. Like that. That's literally like that. That's like watching two, think like two toddler or two like 10-year-old brother, 10 and 12-year-old brothers who go out and fight in the backyard and they go ham at each other.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Camozzi brothers still, but they're, both 30-some-year-old men who are highly trained professional strikers or professional fighters, period, but high-level strikers who just go and beat the hell out of each other.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate Chris. I'm glad you have good opinion of him, because that was one of the things I was worried about coming to a bigger gym, coming up from Austin, finding a bigger gym, was worrying that, the bigger name guys would be, kind of not, they wouldn't be there for you. And Chris is an amazing teammate on top of amazing fighter.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. And Ian was out there for a while before he left down to Florida. I used to be Ian's media guy. So I've got some good solid not just on the professional level but personal relationships with some of the guys. I try to be as much of a, almost like an ambassador or liaison for the sport as I can be, I bleed black and white, don't get me wrong, but through the nature of what I do, I've got connections all across the board throughout the state, throughout the city, and then has grown, to the national and in some cases international levels. So that's, I don't know. I think it's important that, we all have our teams, but at the end of the day, we're all still trying to be a part of this same growing movement.
Absolutely. Yeah. When my manager hit me up about this interview, I was really excited, because I know that it's important to have individuals such as yourself who, one, have a background in mixed martial arts, who understand the game, and who are helping proliferate the beauty, the art form of it, rather than it just being a sport of violence. And it's important to have guys like you spreading the message and keeping MMA growing. Super important. More guys like you, the better. One day we'll have judges like you judging fights. That's the goal.
Yeah, hey man, I don't know if judging will ever be directly there, but commentating, hopefully you may see me someday on that ESPN desk, or even if it's not, and I only say with judging just simply because, selfishly speaking, judges don't get paid shit. But
Fair enough.
I had Frank Trigg on my radio show, and we talked kind of about the refereeing and judging element and why he believes that it's going to take a lot of things for that to ever truly change, starting with, obviously funding being a big aspect of it.
Absolutely.
It's you take a lot of criticism, you're under the microscope a lot for something that you don't really get paid a whole ton for. So it's kind of like a lot of the judges, they do it for the love of it,
Yes. And I'm really curious, as a former businessman myself, how that money is going to be supplied, because right now pulling money from fighters, that can't happen. We already, especially at a low level, we already make so little money. It's probably costing me my fights in Philadelphia is probably costing me money to fly out there, tickets and whatnot, and then to perform and then fly back and bring my coach with me. And then promotions, they're already starving themselves. It's difficult for promoters to do anything, to shed any more money, to lose any more money. So as far as commissions making more money and attracting more talent to be judges, I'm not sure where the money would come from. Maybe from state funding. Yeah, state funding is maybe something that I could see happening if somebody could, put a bill out there in a state or each state federally. I'm not sure, but one day we'll figure it out.
But you really and truly, you hit the nail on the head right there. There's there needs to be more funding to go into it, but there's just not any funding to be had, on that end of things. So until that dynamic of the situation kind of changes, or there's something else that comes into play, I think that we're kind of, we're stuck with the hand that we've been dealt with it. But for me personally, like I say, like I love giving analysis. Like I love being able to talk about the sport, love being able to talk through the game. Obviously, live commentary is amazing, but if it were to be for the right sort of situation to go be like Josh Thompson is on the desk for Bellator, or the way that Bisping, obviously he's gotten into the cage side, but for a long time Bisping was the studio analyst or the guy that was working the desk. One of my teammates, Anthony Smith, does that right now. So, if it were to ever be that sort of scenario, I would never say no to being in any of those roles if it were to be, the right role with the UFC, for sure.
I think if you keep knocking on that door and keep experimenting with your talent, and I think that opportunity will be there one day for you, for sure.
I hope so. I'm optimistic, and I really think so. But just like, a lot of you guys with trying to fight, with there not being shows, or there only being like the large level shows throughout the last year.
Right.
Well, if you didn't have cards to go fight on to show off what you do in the cage, that also means that I didn't have fights to be cage side calling.
100%. Yeah.
So it's been, I'll be back once Colorado finally opens back up on June 5th for Colorado Combat Club. I'll be calling that show that night down in Pueblo. But awesome. Man, like it's been way too long for me, in my liking. I like doing it all the time. If I could go out and be on the road for a couple of years and calling shows and just getting that experience under my belt and doing it, 35, 40 times a year. Yeah. So that's, that's a lot of shows. That's a lot of reps. I would not be opposed to that at all. There have been some different stuff that have came up here and there, but then, business is business. Sometimes stuff at the negotiation table. Well, right now they think that we're also desperate and that we'll work for pennies sometimes.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And, I have a high level of pride in what I do. Like I do a lot. I try to do my research. I try to be prepared on the card that I'm about to call. And then with that, comes, there's time that you got to spend with film or interviewing maybe a coach or getting a statement from fighter or something to that effect. There's a lot that goes into it on that side. It's like, man, like you're only wanting to pay me a couple $100, including like that I have to use also for my travel. Like I'm paying to work for you.
Absolutely.
I can't really justify that.
The success you're going to have, other than having a good personality and being colorful, is finding those little things that most people don't see. And that's going to require so much time, like you said, film in the film room, watching fighters, talking to fighters, a lot of hours outside of what you're actually getting paid for. So it's a tricky business.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Now, Kyle, we've covered a few topics here. We've talked your fight. We've talked some of the nuances of navigating the pandemic. A little bit of reading. Is there something that we haven't covered that you want to get out there to your friends, family, supporters?
I'd say I am excited to have my story be told one day. There's a lot in my background. There's a lot that people don't know about me and what I've been through. And I'm excited about this journey. I've got a lot of good people who believe in me, who are on my side. Got some amazing sponsors. My Genesis fight team, they help me out with travel and gym support every single month. I have another sponsor, Connected Health Westminster, in Westminster, who takes care of my body. Dr. Rebecca out there. Justin is an amazing masseuse, and I'll get massages and adjustments, and it keeps me feeling good at the end of the week. Getting older, so I need more work, more recovery time. But no, just in general, I have a story to be told. And once I get on track and once I get in that cage, I think I have 3 fights lined up this year already. Once awesome. I get out there and get my name out there, I'm excited to get my whole story out there and get a lot of fans. Because one of the things that I love to do is entertain people. It's one of the reasons I do this. I love being in that cage. I would hate to have to fight with no crowd. That sounds horrible because I feed off that. I want people in the audience, and I love to hear people scream and yell and even throw insults. I've been in fights where I've been in a guy's hometown and lots of insults and insulting me and my family and the people there with me. And it's just like, it's awesome. It's so much fun. It's great.
Oh yeah. That's all a part of it with the crowds, my man.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir. So make sure that you guys go and check my man out on social media. Also make sure that you tune in on UFC Fight Pass on May 29th for the CFFC card. This is the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast. I'm Jordan Kurtz. You can catch me every Wednesday night also in the Denver area on 98.1 FM for the MMA plug presented by denversportsbetting.com on Mile High Sports Radio. You can also stream that worldwide from 6 to 7 p.m. Mountain Time on denversportsbetting.com/radio. Kyle, we'll have to do this again sometime.
Absolutely. It was a great time talking to you. Appreciate you.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And I hope to see all of the success, and I hope you get the opportunity to have your story told, man. That's really awesome.
Likewise.
Yes, sir, my brother. Well, we'll sync up again in the future, and we'll get it popping.
All right. Take care of yourself.
Yes, sir. All righty, folks. Make sure that you go check my man out. Once again, that is May 29th for CFFC on UFC Fight Pass. This is the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast, and we will see you next time.
Quick question for everybody out there. Who enjoys getting injured after taking a pop to the chops? Well, as someone who spends multiple hours per week speaking into a microphone, I know I don't. And I especially don't have the time to be making unnecessary trips and visits to the dentist's office. That's why I trust my oral protection needs to Impact Mouthguards. Impact Mouthguards offers custom-molded, custom-fit solutions for everything from mixed martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to powerlifting and nighttime products. Impact Mouthguards merchandise lineup offers things for both the badass beauties and the bearded badasses out there. Everything from rash guards and t-shirts to stickers and finger tape. Make sure that you check out www.impactmouthguards.com. Use the promo code PEANUTGALLERY.
Yeah, brown skin, short legs, and fat ass. Son, that's my type, I cannot pass.